but it's like being intentional with how you use your voice, you know?
Yeah, because I just see so much screaming from either side. And
Yeah.
I just see, and it's really funny too. And I think this is a trigger for me, is that I feel like when I like step up and say, hey, maybe we should slow down and talk about this, I like a lot of people on a specific side automatically assume I'm on the other side when it's not true. And I think both sides are awful. I just think they're both really bad. And I'm not even gonna give opinion to which one I think is worse, because I don't think it matters. But I just think both, because I think both are complicit with what's going on. And I just see so much yelling. So I guess like and I guess something that I wrote about just, I guess yesterday, was like, if you don't handle the conflict that's going on in your own household, like the wars and battles that you're fighting out are just going to be a reflection of the shit show that's behind you waiting for you when you clock out at the end of the day. So I guess like the thing that I'd really like to see progressing is more people handling their own shit.
Yes.
And then allowing other people to handle theirs. And then I just feel like that would help us. And maybe it's not that simple, but that's just me really feeling like that could be the thing. Could be, you know, I don't know.
So, I mean, that piggybacks right on what I was saying just before, that we're not coming from our true authenticity. We're piggybacking on someone else's ideas. And it ties into exactly what you just said. And I think it's a super complex problem, obviously, but it's really, the truth is that in modern day America, we're all, men and women are both kind of treated like shit. And we work jobs that we hate. We work hours that we hate to buy shit that we don't really want with money that isn't ours. And kind of to prove that it's fucked up for both genders, if Kavanaugh was a girl, no one would give a fuck.
Right.
No one would give a fuck. And this sends a really unpowerful message to everyone. And not that to take anything away from the Kavanaugh story, whatever is whatever, but it's true. If he was a woman, no one would give a fuck. And no one cares about boys. So we have a generation upon generation, a generation of boys that become men that don't know how to care about anybody else. We've done stuff to unlearn a lot of this stuff and to become aware of it. And so we're able to love and become more authentic, and we're able to hold conflicting ideas like we're doing right now, conflicting ideas in our mind, because we're coming from a very authentic, comfortable, safe place where we are able to see both.
Right. And that's the thing, is being able to have the empathy to see both sides, and where it's like, all right, well, that could be as well. You know, there's also there's sides to every, like, you know, idea. So it's, everybody's having their feelings, and everybody's feelings is valuable. But at the same time, if you can't get to the source of your authentic self and be able to express that in a way that could be of value, and you're just screaming and yelling and going all about, then it's not going to come across. You know, it's like, if we yell at somebody, you're not going to be able to get your point across, period. You know, but if you're, okay, let me just sit back and observe and see what's really going on here, and what are my intentions? How do I feel inside? And if we go into it with hating the other person already, we're not going to be listening to them, period. You know, but if we go into it with observation, and maybe they have something that's going on for them, because everybody shows up with their stories, you know, and what they grew up with, and like their moral compass and whatever, like it's their story, and they hold on to that. So they're coming up with story, and they're putting it in your face. And so it's story upon story. If you can step back and see the bigger picture, I think there's a better perspective. Does that make sense? There's like a better.
No, I think it makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
It makes perfect sense. And this is, and I know a quote that I know Dustin has heard. It's like, as soon as you assume the other side, whatever, like you've already lost. Like if you would make any assumptions about the other side, whether you think they're going to do good, you think they're going to do bad, it's just like the Democratic senator from freaking Maine who voted yes. You know, it's like people would assume, oh, well, she's a Democrat, she's going to vote. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with our system as well, that there's only two sides. It's just a 1 or a 0. Like there's no gray area. And I would venture to guess that it's probably 60% or more of us sitting in the middle in this gray area, just wishing
we have no home.
Somebody, like there's no home. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons. And And I know the left is like, oh, well, we're doing our best to take care of the people who are underrepresented and da 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 and all this, and taking care of LGBTQ and the 32 genders and all this stuff. But the people who voted for the other guy, like these uneducated, poor white people out in the middle of freaking God knows nowhere, they're completely forgotten about it too. And it's funny because like, as I say this, like it's even uncomfortable to say, because there's so much like what appears to be like automatic throwback to that statement, you know? And so it's just, but we have all these terms, you know, with discussing whose lives matter the most and who is the most privileged. And I think it's just like Lauren said, like we all have our story, and there's this massive assumption about each individual group. And until we can kind of just pull that down and pull that away and be able to engage with like our slate as clean as possible, like we're just going to continue doing this. I talked to one guy the other night that believes that there's no way to fix this. The only way to fix it is to go to war within our country. That's what he believes. He believes that's what's next. And I think that there's a group of people that are like down to do it that way. And it's really scary.
I think that group of people is growing every day.
I agree with you.
And
I think
that's
it's growing every day.
That's what sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks.
We're not healing it. There's this shame response. I feel like people will show up with their story, shame response automatically, defensiveness, and then nothing happens, nothing resolves, it just dissolves, and then it continues again. So it's like, then there's still this shame. Everybody has this shame. And so it's like, share your shame, you know, like, hey, this is what's happening. That's how you heal. It's like, remember, Ryan, how I told you, don't hide, heal? That's like my little tagline now. Like, I feel like we're going to heal this aspect of our existence and our culture and what's happening in the United States. Like, we can't allow the hiding to continue.
Yeah, I'm 100% agree with you. That's my work. It's nothing more important.
Right. And we can't continue to hate, banish, no, bad, because then it's like the hiding is going to continue, and then we're not going to be able to heal that aspect of humanity.
Yeah, you got to bring them in. It's freaking.
But how do you get
Oh man, it's challenging. I remember last year when go ahead if you got more. Go for it if you got more.
Yeah, it's like it really, what it comes down to is, how do you get to that place where somebody will be able to hear you and listen, where the shame response, the reaction doesn't pop up and the story doesn't pop up, and accountability on both ends for what's happening, and be able to resolve it and come to a neutral place? Like, how does that happen in a larger spectrum of society? Like, like you were saying, like healing in the home, healing within your relationships. Like, how do you, like, that's where it starts. It starts with you, then it's the next person, and it goes out to your friend group, and then so on. But how do you work with somebody that is completely shut down and not willing to open?
I think that you avoid the person that's completely shut down. I think you earmark them in your mind as, this is someone who I want to reapproach, maybe down the road. However, there are a lot of people who are really enrollable into coming into the middle. And I found this out, and not to go intersectional feminist, I won't go on an intersectional feminist rant, but the three of us, specifically Ryan and I, and Lauren a close second, we're white, and we're from an affluent-ish part of America, and like we have a specifically unique perspective. Specifically me, because I'm the whitest in the group here. I have a specifically unique vantage point from which I'm able to view the world because of my privilege and all the things that go into that. And so it's my responsibility, I think, to use that vision and that understanding as a tool. And the way that I've used it as a tool is I've had one-on-one conversations with people who are super anti-Black Lives Matter and wouldn't even say the phrase Black Lives Matter. They'd only say BLM. This is how much they believed it. And if I argued with that person, I never would have ever got through to that person, ever in a million years. But I had a conversation with them instead, and I came from a place of really wanting to understand their side. And in that space, I found the thread of humanity in there, and I unwound that motherfucker until he was on my side. And it was really quite an amazing thing, but it's possible. And that's why I say fuck the guy who's buried in his own shit. He's hiding behind a lie because all the lies that he believes about himself and the world are so fucked up that this is something to keep him safe. So fuck that guy. Come back to him in a couple of years. But people who are maybe almost there, who are just stuck in the Fox News time warp or whatever version time warp you want to call, you can pull them delicately with questions and with love, with compassion, and say, I value what you're saying. I want to understand it, and let's unwind this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Do you think saying "fuck that guy" can be from a place of love?
I think so. I think it's love for me. It's love for the next person that I'm going to talk to. It's love for that guy, because if he really, really wants to believe it, it's not up to me to want to take that. I'm looking for someone who's just confused, man. Like,
yeah,
yeah. You know, safety.
Yeah, for sure.
He's built a fortress of lies, and that's just one of the links in the chain. And if that link were to come down, then the whole thing would come down, and then he'd have to look at himself in the mirror. Most people who are on that side of the fence aren't ready to do that.
I also think that's really powerful, being an ally too. You know, it's going to the groups that are with the fortress up, and, you know, maybe people that are in the medium ground that you can actually have a conversation with and maybe get them to come onto the side as being an ally for the minority and people, you know, going for the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
You could say. So.
And I think the reality is the people that have this extreme view are quite few, but we live in a society where everyone can have a microphone and scream at the corner of the street and everyone in the whole world can hear you. And we live in that society now with all the different things. And not everybody's opinion is, I mean, everybody's opinion matters, but not everybody's opinion needs to be heard. Some people just need to be able to think the ignorant shit that they think and think it over in their ignorant ass life. And they're missing out. They're missing out on culture. They're missing out on the human experience. They're missing out on so many beautiful things. I'm empathetic for that stupid fuck who's hiding behind all these lies, because he's missing out on, or she, just to keep it real, missing out on so much of what life has to offer. And that's a fucking shame that their ignorant beliefs are keeping them locked away.
Dustin's fired up today, man. I like it.
I got
fired up. No, I do too, and I think that's one of the things I find most frustrating lately, and one of the things that I'm having the biggest struggle with, like in this work, right? Like this is what I do, like every single day. Is it like this is just the enrollment process? It's it. Every single day, it's enrolling and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling, pulling that thread, just like you said. And some people are they're looking over the fence, and they're like, "Man, it looks cool over there." But I'm just going to chill over here for a couple more years and hate my existence for a little while longer and project that hate on everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so it's just, I know for me, like, and this is another one of the reasons that Dustin and I was like, dude, we need to do these calls more often, because it keeps me really accountable to my own bullshit. Because sometimes I just want to be like, man, I don't feel like playing today. Just don't, you know. I've had like 2 really challenging Mondays in a row, today included. And it's, sometimes it's hard, you know, to like that enrollment process. It's just, last week was just like an inspiration block. This week it's just, you know, like genuine anger at my toddler for just like raging on me for the last 8 hours. And it's benevolent tyrant, man. And it's like, someone is like, man, and I'm like sitting here, she finally goes to sleep, and I was like clearing before I hit the thing, and I'm just sharing it just to become, you know, transparent. As that it's like I find myself as like, I'm like angry at a 2-year-old right now. I'm actually angry at my daughter, who's just learning to express her emotions. And I think in that realization, it's like the same, people can use that same, like, oh, I'm literally angry at a website, at a name with a 240 characters. Like, I'm angry at that, which is really just a reflection of ourselves. And my daughter's like the most amazing and perfect reflection of me, minus the blonde hair and blue eyes. Because I'm a high power, high energy kind of person. And it's, man. And so it's a challenge to want to continue to do that and want to continue to fight, because I love it here. I love the United States. I do. It's a shit show right now. Yet I say that, and I don't even think that it's true, because I think if you actually went out, if we had the capability to go to all 327 million people, be like, hey, how are you guys doing? Like, what's your day-to-day life like? Most of them be like, yeah, I don't even care. Like, that stuff's just dumb. Like, and I think it's just like Dustin said, it's just the dude on the corner of the street that's able to scream and everybody's able to hear him, and it's amplified and microscoped and all that other stuff. So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go for it.
We now just have so many different platforms of getting the voice out there too, and that people just like we were saying, to say just dumb shit, and like get out there and like yell about stuff or whatever. It's interesting times we live in, for sure. And going back to like when I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, like not having a medium like this where it's like online, and then there's Facebook, and I think a lot of people get stuck in land and get depressed by seeing the news, and I hear it through friends like, oh my God, I got to get off Facebook for a little bit. And I took a hiatus because I'm like, I just need to get away from the politics and like people's opinions, because it's a forum for that. It's just opinions after opinions, where it's like, are we actually accomplishing anything? Are we really doing the work, getting out there? So, and here we are. Ryan's frozen.
Ryan's 2-year-old's messing things up over there. I can't even see him.
I know. I see him. He's frozen.
He's got a rough internet connection.
Oh yeah.
So
the whole Facebook thing, and like being stuck behind that. And there's some really great things, like being able to have. Am I the only one now?
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're here.
Ryan may have bowed out potentially.
But yeah, it's tricky, because there's a lot of great things about Facebook where it can be inspiring and it can get the good content out, but then it also can suck you into this like rabbit hole of information. Yeah. And then it's hard to like really understand, okay, what's the information out there and what's really going on for me? What's my authentic self? Like you were saying, like honing in on that intentionally. So yeah, I just find it really interesting to like be in this time and actually having it where we didn't have that to now,
Yeah, exactly. We were part of that short generation of humans that
80s, 90s.
Yeah, what year were you born?
79.
Okay, so I was 86. So a few years later, however, I was in school when there wasn't a cell phone, and then I was in school when there was one. I wasn't in school when they had a little screen on them, though. They have a screen now,
right? Which
is crazy to think about.
Yeah, it is. But we had those like big bulky ones and like the battery pack under the seat.
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff, and we had to get creative with how we get in touch with people. And I remember memorizing everybody's number in the directory, and I knew everybody's first and last name, and now everything's just kind of given to us. So there's also this kind of perspective of like things are just like given to us like that instantly, the instant gratification society, and you don't have to like work for it in a certain way. So there's Ryan.
I often see and use the terminology microwave generation. I call my generation the microwave generation, because everything is a microwave away from being ready. So it's broadband internet and all these things that just train us to not have patience in any way, shape, or form.
Right. Ryan, are you back?
I am back. Sorry about that. My internet got kicked off somehow, so I was like scrambling. But I'm here. I'm sure you guys had an amazing conversation while I was gone.
Yeah, we're talking about the microwave generation, man.
How so?
That my generation specifically, we've become so accustomed to the instantaneous access to everything, whether it's food or information or a distraction, or anything pretty much is a phone click away. And I think it's creating a pattern that People lack patience in all sense of the word, and it's going to be real interesting to see how that systemically affects our growth as a civilization. I'm really scared.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, I've watched more Kung Fu Panda this week than I have in a while, since, I have Charlie from more or less wake up to bedtime at night. So as to give Makara as much space. And it's just one of those things. It's just because like we went on a 3-hour hike. We're out in the freaking 90-degree weather today, like in the sun. We come home, we turn the air conditioning on, and I'm like exhausted and tired. And it's like, I'm not even, and like in the back of my mind, I'm just like, oh, you just got to freaking find a way to do something different or read another book or da-da-da. I was like, I've got nothing left. Like I'm like, freaking out a little bit. And so it's just like, turn that on so that we can kind of both calm down. So it's almost, we're sitting right next to each other. I'm like holding her while we're watching it. So, and I'm not really sure if that's my justification or if it's just, it's just really interesting. I don't know. Like, where do you think it's going? I just like kind of rambled there for a couple minutes, and we're just going to go to different. Like, where do you think it's going?
I think the only way that we're ever going to be happy in this place is if we live in a fully automated society where we don't do anything, and we don't have jobs, we don't work, we don't drive, we don't do anything. Everything's automated, and hopefully in this weird version of the future, we're focused on cool shit like meditation and transcendental experiences and training our minds to move things and to manipulate matter. And like the only way that most people are going to have time to do that is if we live in a fully automated society. And if until then, we're going to keep doing this capitalist grind away for 40 hours a day, or a week rather.
So let's like we're living in this society, right? And you have those people that are learning to manipulate matter. You have those people that are learning to move things with their thoughts. You have those people that are focusing on transcendental meditation. Is the other 99% still doing the 40-hour-a-week capitalism thing, just like it is now? Like, is it?
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
In a fully automated world, everything would be automated. So you wouldn't have anything being done by humans. You'd have things being done through automation. Everything. Building of homes, shopping for groceries, everything could be done by a machine. With today's technology, this is damn near almost possible, right? Mm-hmm. In 30 years, it's pretty much guaranteed. And especially with corporations, we have to. Go ahead.
No, I can order Costco to my house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And driverless cars are 5 years away. So pretty soon that guy's not even gonna have to drive the thing to your house. You're gonna walk outside, open a door, pull your shit out, go back in your house, and then the thing's gonna drive alone. Mm-hmm. That's 5 years away.
That's already happened. I think I saw a video of some guy ordering a pizza, and the driverless car came and dropped off his pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the technology's here today.
Yeah, the technology exists. It's just a matter of because we're still holding on to a lot of old shit, and I think could be metaphorical to the same way that we as individuals hold on to old stuff, so that old new stuff can put in. And it's just like coal and fossil fuels and stuff. Like, the technology exists that we could completely shift. And I think Elon Musk said it's like it would take 20 to 25 years if everybody was like, okay, we're doing electric cars immediately. Like, it would still take 20 to 25 years to replace everything that's actually on the road now, because of the lifespan of the vehicles that currently are already in, my truck's 3 years old. So like, I'm going to have it for a little while longer. It's so fascinating, because it's just like, this is like, so like 30 years from now, I guess the thing that it's like I'm having a trouble like moving out, and maybe this is just my story that I'm mentioning, is that even though the technology will be 30 years advanced, will the actual problems, the existential things, the things that we're like the exact conversation we're having right now, will that actually be different? Do you think it'll actually be different?
I think the problems will be different. I think the identity that we have to understand within ourselves. It's super simple, man. Like, the humans were biologically engineered to struggle. It makes us stronger. Monks sit on a mountain for 30 years in an uncomfortable position, and they reach enlightenment because they've struggled for a really long time. You work out in the gym, you get stronger. You're struggling. We're born to struggle. So instead of struggling over all these race and sex and all this crazy bullshit that doesn't make any sense, that we're all just human, we're all 0.001% different from the next, DNA speaking, like, this argument is dumb to say that we're different. Even men and women, we're not different. We have some small different parts on the outside. Other than that, we're the same DNA wise. And until we get away from that whole idea and realize that we're just this big colony forming bacteria, we would just have a different problem. We'd have a different type of suffering. And I think that's where my training with getting into the ice is so important, because I create that suffering in a super safe environment in a way that also empowers the mind and body to do bigger and better things. And so it's just another opportunity to find the suffering and choose into it because our engineering needs it.
So I think it's like you talked about with the microwave generation would be exponentially worse with 30 years from now would be like the struggle is almost lack of struggle.
Yeah, this lack of struggle.
Yeah, the lack of struggle is here now for sure. And to just exacerbate it. Yeah.
Failure is going up. Well, people are dying at all-time high because the lack of struggle is now. It's just,
do you think the cancer
only.
The cancer rate, go ahead, Lauren.
I was just going to say, as far as the struggle, I feel like we're struggling emotionally and mentally. I feel like there's a higher rate, and something that I've noticed is a higher rate of suicides that are happening for people, and like also these depressive ways of being, where there's something about working, and not necessarily the 9-to-5 kind of working, but being able to do something and feeling good about doing that. And I feel like it's our nature to feel like we want to give back and do something good for people and other humans and society itself. Like, I feel like we're wired to do that. That's just my, but in feeling good emotionally and just like, wow, like that, you know, all the good, like oxytocin and, you know, serotonin and all of those chemicals are interacting in that moment. And I think we're losing sight of that too, and, you know, with technology and all of that, to not be able to access that as much. I mean, I'm lucky enough to live in San Francisco where I can at any point, but then there's people in the Midwest that it's a lot harder to connect with that, I guess you could say. You know,
I think,
just depression in general. It's like, I see that happening for people because they're stuck, you know, and I see that more recently, actually, common thread.
And I think you kind of touched on and brought into focus of the overall philosophy that I'm working with, the idea that our whole point on Earth, our responsibility as humans is to explore contrast. And our journey into contrast is about feeling that elation, that non-normal state that you're talking about, where the dopamine and the serotonin and the oxytocin, and they're just pumping, and my brain is just this cosmic explosion. Like conversations like these where you're elevated, right? And then the flip side of that is the valley side, the bottom side of the wavelength, when not judged as a negative experience. It's just the other side of that. And it's an opportunity to explore contrast. And we do this for our entire lives until we get to explore the ultimate contrast, which is the contrast to life, which is death, which makes death super beautiful, because without death, there isn't a life. And it's an essential part of life. It's a guaranteed part of life, and it's the ultimate contrast to explore. So I completely agree with those experiences being super important and leading to the overall sickness that we see on a day-to-day level.
Yeah, and the duality of that, I think we need to have both. I think
absolutely,
both in order to be like, oh, that's what that is. It's the ebb and flow, the rise and fall, the contrast, like you were saying. But it's when you get stuck in those other places. Like if you get stuck too long in the depressive, deeper, darker modes, then you're not going to be able to feel the elation. Now, people will get stuck there, and I feel like society in some ways is wired to try to keep us there. Like, we're not good enough. We don't have like enough of this, and it's not enough, you know, this not enough thing. So it's like, how do, you know, that's a bigger question, is like, how, when you see people stuck, like how do they get themselves up with the help of community?
I think you answered your own question with what you said. I think that it happens one loving, open mind at a time, and community is an essential part of our need to be healthy. And that's why I said colony forming bacteria. Like, that's what we are. We're a colony forming bacteria that's basically eating the earth, and we need our colony, and we don't have that, especially here in America, where it's super uncommon to see multi-generational homes. It's very uncommon to see adults co-raising children together. These things happen, and when they do happen, it's usually quite an amazing thing. whether it's multi-generational family, or multiple parents raising their children together like a village, it is quite a profound experience. And generally people thrive in this environment, and it's about inclusion, not exclusion. It's about being heard, and also not being the center of the stage.
Yes.
Being a part of the stage.
Absolutely. And not hiding either. It's like I'm going back to that don't hide, heal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being open up, and having the women's circle is like you're able to open up to women. And what's really unique about the circle is that somebody has a talking stick and everybody listens, and the woman expresses herself. No coddling, no touching, no hugging. You listen, and you listen without judgment, and you listen without, oh, what am I going to say? Kind of idea. It's you're really actively listening to the other woman and being there and having that container. And like you're talking about the growth of that and community, I think it's a valuable thing to have so that we can all heal ourselves so that we can be available to the community.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think that's I like the talking stick idea. I think that's a really good way to demonstrate. I did something similar, not a women's group, but I did something similar at Burning Man, where I participated in a emoticon. And this basically was where we just were a container for women to express, or people who identified as women to express anything that they wanted, that any trauma that they had been through, or any gratitude they wanted to experience, or whatever it was that they wanted to express to the masculine energy. We just held it there, and we weren't allowed to respond. We weren't allowed to move. We just held space for them. And while it being super powerful and amazing, it was fucking brutal, man. It was like getting hit with a fire hose, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And the things that I were hearing that these beautiful humans had endured throughout their life, and they were screaming about at the top of their lungs and clearing. I hope they were able to clear some of that shit. And like, it was like getting hit with a fire hose, like nothing I'd ever imagined. However, these spaces, I think, are way too far and way too few in between, and super important for our XX chromosomes out there who are suffering.
For men and for women and for co-ed, being able to heal the sister wound and the brotherhood wound, and then healing the collective wound, masculine, feminine, like having both of that, so, but having the separate containers is really beneficial too, to have that together as well. So
it's amazing. It's amazing work, and I'm glad that you guys are into it. We've got a planet to heal.
Yes.
And I think it's goofy people like us coming from our authentic self, showing people that it's okay to have hard opinions, and to be authentic, and to be weird, and to be silly, and to be leaders.
We're going to change the name of this talk to Goofy People.
We can change it every week.
So, yeah, we can just change it every week to whatever. Huh.
And there's something really valuable about creativity as well. And I think, Ryan, you saw my poem that I did for the first time in a couple of years and got up on stage. And it's a container called You're Gonna Die, Poetry, Prose, and Everything Goes. And you get all different types of people getting up there and expressing themselves creatively, but telling their story. And it was a packed house, and having so many people supporting that, and this container of vulnerability with a larger group. I think creativity is something that is really valuable to the healing process as well. When I tap into creativity, I feel like I'm healing by doing that, whatever the wound.
Yeah, I
agree. I agree with that 100%. That's absolutely my, like, when I'm in the most, like when I'm really on, when I'm really lit up, like I'm just like, like it's just it's pouring out of me, like absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree. I noticed that when I slip into it's like a hyper focused space when I get into creative. It's not quite like a flow state, I guess, is what only thing you can call it. And so much cleansing and rebuilding of my own brain happens in this environment. It's really amazing. And so I do have a hard stop right now, and I have to go. However, I want to end you guys with a quote. I think it pertains to this discussion. Pablo Picasso, the urge to, or the desire to destroy is also an urge to create. So on that note, I'm gonna leave you guys. Love you guys. I think this was fucking awesome, by the way. I'm really grateful that you decided to join us.
Absolutely,
And,
my pleasure. It's great. I love it.
Super cool. Really appreciate what you gave. And I love you guys.
Love you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Later.
Later.